bowl of water silently or while speaking a few words into the microphone, so we may support each other in sorrows and celebrate together in joy. This is a sacred time for us. Service for a time of quiet meditation or prayer. Today we begin Lenny Scoville, followed by a few moments of silent contemplation and ending with a chime. So these are Lenny's words. Why Christmas? Especially to one who doubts. Are you not being hypocritical? Unitarian Universalists, with their penchant for secular humanism, are fond of arguing the validity of Christmas. Is it a Christian holiday? A pagan holiday? A secular holiday? It's just another day, I've heard said. I know all this, and I don't care. I love Christmas. Always have and always will. It fills me with nostalgia, generosity, and goodwill. As far as the meaning of Christmas is concerned, as a Unitarian Universalist, I believe it is part of our spiritual maturation to search for and assign meaning to all the days of our lives. In this, Christmas is a high water mark of the year, a time when the world slows and we consider our relationships with each other. Isn't that in itself enough to celebrate? Worthy of decorations, lights, and music? The gifts we give each other at this time of year are more than just demonstrations of our generosity. They are symbols of the gifts we are capable of giving on all the other days of our lives. Gifts of love, compassion, industry, advocacy, the gifts of our common humanity. These were the values of Jesus, the true Christian values. And if we, as Unitarian Universalists, need to reconcile the language of Jesus as the Savior in celebrating Christmas, can we not acknowledge that through his ministry of compassion, he was in fact our Savior by showing us a way to save ourselves? After our song of dedication, greeters will take up the offering. Generosity is a spiritual practice. Our fellowship, our building, is supported by our pledges and donations. If you're paying your pledge with a check, please write that in the memo line. We also have a tradition we call Share the Plate, where we equally split all cash donations and checks not marked as pledges with a charity. It's December, so we have a new Share the Plate partner. It is the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and the Guest at Your Table program, which collects funds to support grassroots partners fighting for liberation and justice the world over. If you were here last week, you may have gotten one of those Guest at Your Table boxes to be collecting money for the whole month of December. If you weren't, there are plenty of extra boxes on the back table with the gold tablecloth. Or if you would rather, we don't have a lot of change in our pockets and dollar bills and all like we used to. So you can also just write a check to UUSC, Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, with Guest at Your Table in the memo line. And that can also just go in the basket anytime this month. And that way your whole contribution goes right to Guest at Your Table, if that's your choice. So our offertory music, while we're doing this, recognizes the beginning of Hanukkah on December 7th. Judy Byrne Riley has a different kind of story for us.
Thank you. Not too long ago, when Reverend Ruth was speaking, she mentioned an opportunity that was available from UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association, our mother church, basically. Well, I don't remember the name of the course. It was an online series on how to write and deliver a sermon. That's a great idea, I thought to myself. I should learn how to do that and how to get it right. Alas, I did not. The thought is about as far as it got. So you must know I don't have any of that specific training, but that's never stopped me before. I've been up here before, and I do love a microphone, as my friends will tell you. I've done a good deal of public speaking in my life, from standing here before you to speaking to a few thousand people in a national setting. This is a little bit easier. Once you learn to not show and sound as nervous as you are, then you're home free. When this church was at Florida Blanca 4 years ago, and we were in Fort Walton, the tradition was that the president was the service leader every Sunday. Miriam's not here, but she would be thrilled. She'd be going, thank goodness. And I was president, and so every Sunday I was service leader. There were about 12 attendees on any given Sunday, unless we had food. And we made up our own program. We didn't have a template, as we do now. Karen remembers, she was there. Our speakers were anyone who knew how to talk, who was breathing and was willing to talk. And every Sunday, I was nervous. But it was very good training. And there are a few requirements for speaking at this pulpit. The main one is the time, and Joshua mentioned this not too long ago. You have 20 minutes. You can do a little bit farther, and your listeners, if they start to yawn, you need to sit down. And you can shortchange the congregation, but you really shouldn't. If you think you can get away with speaking for 10 minutes and 30 seconds, you will not. People will be looking at their watch saying, seriously, is that it? I also know that in this milieu, you should have an idea of your goal and your purpose, a Sunday morning theme, so to speak. You start with an idea, you develop it, however you do that in your own way, and you wrap it up while bringing it back to the beginning theme. You are working from a UU point of view, a perspective around the 7 principles. That's the ideal. Even if you don't bring that to everyone's attention, you just kind of work it in. See, I didn't need that UUA series. So today, I want to break all the rules. This is not 20 minutes, and this is not a UU lesson at its base. It's basically just a story. It's a Christmas story. In 1969, I was living in southern Maryland with my Naval Air husband and my 2.5-year-old daughter, Marion, who happens to be here this morning. As service people do, and this being an Air Force community, we know that, my husband Jay was headed off for 6 months on deployment. This was a split deployment, sometimes in Reykjavik, Iceland, and sometimes in Terceira, Azores. Try packing for that, ladies, that would be difficult. He left in August, and while he was gone, I took my precious little Marion, and we visited family here in Valparaiso and in Boston, Massachusetts, where the other grandparents lived. 6 months is a long deployment, and as many squadrons do, they were scheduled to return home somewhere in the middle of the 6 months, about the middle of November. Planning his homecoming, I prepared to celebrate both Thanksgiving and Christmas during those same few days. We were very excited. Well, I was excited. Marion didn't really have a clue. She was 2.5. Unfortunately, a few days before they were to arrive, everything was canceled. Everything was canceled. They weren't coming. There was no homecoming. There was no Thanksgiving. There was no Christmas. It seemed like a good idea then, seemed like a good idea, that I should go see him. He was, I was told, going to be in the Azores, and that would be a great favorite. It was getting close to Christmas, but it wasn't too late to make this plan. So I sent my husband, then, and she went through the base office, and it was an emergency in 1969. So I sent a telegram. And then I started getting ready, making the final details. I shared my travel plans and the information with the squadron leader's wife, Kathy, who kept track of everyone. I called my in-laws to tell them my plans, and they said, "How can we help? Why doesn't Dad come and meet? Dad will meet you in New York at the airport, and he will take Marion with him and bring her home to Boston, and we will stay with her. We will keep her while you're away." Well, problem number one. My next quest was to update my passport from my maiden name to my married name. In 1969, you just had to add an addendum to your existing passport, changing to your married name. I doubt it's done that way now. It's probably much more of a hassle. Since my daughter was not going with me, I didn't need the more cumbersome task of a whole new passport for both of us. Washington, D.C. in southern Maryland was about an hour away, and the passport office could add that page to my existing passport, and voila. So two friends and I decided to make a day of it, and off we went to the big city, no children in tow, and a whole day by ourselves. At the office, she smiled. I told her what I needed, and then she said, "Oh no, bring it back." And she would personally give me a passport in my married name. Just an aside here, this married name thing is a real pain. And they really should not do it anymore, which I haven't in the future. Annoyed as I was, I took her direction. Within a few hours, I had a new passport in my married name. Yahoo! Problem number 2 solved. Getting home that afternoon, I called my in-laws to fill them in on my progress. I had my ticket, I had an updated passport in my name only, and I was getting ready to pack. I treated him very, very meanly, as only a 2.5-year-old can. She stopped talking to him for a few days. She totally ignored him when he would take her somewhere in the car. She would go that way, or actually, he was here. She would go this way. She wouldn't talk to him. She wouldn't look at him. The flight to Lisbon was, thank goodness, uneventful. No frantic call at Logan Airport from the squadron leader's wife, no bad weather, no blizzard, not even a real busy airport. As noted in '69, everybody didn't travel on every holiday. So I arrived in Lisbon in good time and went to get to on the small Portuguese airline for the final leg of my trip. I don't remember the name of the airline, but it was a very small airline. They used old World War II planes. There were not a lot of flights, not many passengers, and most importantly that day, no pilots were willing to fly 3 days before Christmas in a driving windstorm over the North Atlantic. There was nothing leaving on that airline from Lisbon. Problem number 4. Again, I called Jay and said, "Well, have a nice Christmas, but I'll get there if the wind dies down and the pilots decide they're going to fly." And then I just played tourist. I went on a visit around the city of Lisbon, which was really lovely, like New York, all decorated for the holidays. I visited Cabo da Roca, the westernmost point of the eastern continent. Yahoo, I thought to myself, Merry Christmas. Every few hours I checked, are they flying? Is it too windy? Are they boarding up? Lisbon was lovely, but you know, I really wanted to get out of there. After 2 days in Lisbon, the Pretend Airlines decided to head west, not to Terceira, but to San Miguel, the biggest island in the chain, and closer to Lisbon, and easier to get to, and a little bit closer to Terceira. Well, I decided I would go. I would get on that plane and at least get closer to my destination. So off I went. It's now the penultimate day of Christmas Eve. My little daughter is in Boston. My husband is on some island far away, and I'm somewhere off the coast of Lisbon. We are indeed a scattered family. We had not been a family long enough to have age-old traditions, as we have after a time. No specific carols for the holidays, no reading of Christmas story in front of the fireplace on the eve before the magic of Christmas happens. This year I would be alone, and the family would be far away. Oh well, it would be memorable, and so off I went to San Miguel. When I arrived, wondering where I would find a place to stay, if the plane could possibly continue, it would not, and when I could get off this little island, and there, to my wondering eyes, should appear Jay, standing behind the chain-link fence next to the tarmac. The only barrier in most airports in 1969 was a very smiling Lieutenant James B. Riley, USN, in uniform. Problem 4, solved. And now what? Well, how did this happen? Another airman, a pilot who I swear was named Tex, and in my memory he had a big 10-gallon cowboy hat on, he decided he would come get me. "She will not spend Christmas alone on that island," he shouted. I'm sort of imagining this. "I'll go get her. It's Christmas." He would fly and get me, and we'd sing carols all the way back to Terceira. The plane was a C-47, the military version of a DC-3, affectionately known as the Goonie Bird, a cargo and paratrooper plane. Our seats were behind the pilot, since Jay had gotten us listed as crew members. The rest of the plane had seats along the side facing each other, you know, like the World War II movies. There was another couple that Tex was picking up, the parents of someone staying at the Naval Air Station, and also stuck. I have no idea how long they had been traveling and waiting to get on the island, but I had been there for 3 days waiting. And I can tell you it was windy. It really was very windy. The plane literally flew sideways or slid sideways. It was trying to go this way. It was frightening. It really was a scary ride, at least to me. But Tex, by God, in his cowboy hat, he got us there. He did it. And as you can imagine, however, on Christmas Eve, on an island in the middle of the North Atlantic, there was no Christmas tree to be had. So we bought some green paper and we taped it in the shape of a tree on the wall of the barracks where we were staying. And the ornaments were the Christmas cards that I brought. Over the next week, we toured the island, which was very windy and cold, and we celebrated with another couple, good friends. The wife had also traveled there for the holidays. I stayed through New Year's, and I had a lovely time. Friends, good food, beautiful location. One amusing item, the trip back home started on that same pretend airlines that could not take me to Terceira, but it took me off to San Miguel. On the way to San Miguel, we landed on a small island first where, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but they had to buzz the airstrip first to get the cows out of the way. They were scattered all over, they got scattered all around before the plane could land. The Goonie Bird, with seats facing each other, was loaded in the back, as where my friend and I were in the back. They had chicken in cages, they had kids throwing up, they had people who were taking their first plane trip who were absolutely petrified. Once in San Miguel, I connected to Pam Ann for the flight home, and my friend and I, again, luck would have it, were put up in first class. What a trip. What a trip this was. All the ups and downs and all of the problems that went into getting this trip. This is a part of my talk this morning where I draw attention to the salient points and the purpose and the learning ideas. This is where a talk becomes a sermon. I could link the inherent worth of every person, a free search for truth and meaning. They were kind of like that. And even a goal of community and world peace and liberty and justice for all. Sorry, friends, not today. Today, it's simply a story, a really good Christmas story without a baby. Thank you.
Please stand for our final hymn, another of my very favorite Christmas songs that you will not hear anywhere else. Oh, We Believe in Christmas, number 248. Thought into the heart of a friend or a stranger that must give. Please stay seated for the postlude. Please join us in the back for refreshments, conversation, and second hour activities. Thank you for coming.